Hi, hello, welcome. How are you? This is not the anything. This is from A to B, presented by Awesemo.com. It's doing the old golf intro because this is an old golf show, except there's only 30 golfers. I'm Andrew. That's the A part. Ben, you're B. How are you, man?
I'm all right. Happy Tuesday. It is raining hard. Got the remnants of the hurricane coming up the East Coast, but all is well. You know, now we get a little break from football, focus on some golf for a little bit.
Little break from football, man. You're not stoked for Jets Browns on Thursday yet?
Well, that's 2 days away. There's no showdown. You can't gamble on football Tuesdays and Wednesdays.
That's true.
Probably a good thing.
Yeah, it was an annoying night last night. I don't know. It was just kind of a boring game and came close. Whatever. It's showdown lotto. I had like 3 lineups that were one away from just stupid Dipset caught that touchdown at the end. It's like, God damn it.
Yeah.
If anyone else was that 5th person would have been, or that 6th person would have been good.
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, showdown was just stupid. I did play some of the 2 games, so we'll see. I'm going to need some big showings from the Brownies on Thursday to make up some ground.
That's so sick.
Yeah, I know it's not. I mean, Allen Robinson is really. They were going Saquon Barkley route where it's just give him the ball every target. I mean, he was racking them up there. I thought he might have a huge night, but never found the end zone. Just a PPR Landry style.
He almost did, and I was pretty tilted halfway through the third quarter. I had a lot of Bears captain teams, but Allen Robinson was looking like the captain you needed for a while, and then he didn't do anything. And then the Bears did, the Amukamara pick 6 was pretty exciting. Had a lot of rust going back against it because you do stupid shit like that in showdown. But anyway, let's talk golf first. We'll get into that game a little later if we got time, because we may not have this. May be a 20-minute golf segment.
Yeah.
Here we are. It's the finals, the end of the FedEx Cup playoffs. It's the end of the golf year, sort of, except there's like another big event next week, and then the swing season starts in 2 weeks. But this is ostensibly the end of the 2017-18 season. Yeah. Everyone's still alive.
It's something. I mean, yeah, we got this. We got the Ryder Cup, and then it'll start back up. But 30 dudes left. FedEx Cup, which is a cool idea, but the way they go about it, it is more confusing than it should be. They're changing the rules for next year. I don't know about all that, but we'll see. I mean, it could be cool. Usually the winner does come from that top tier. You never know. Maybe the stars align and someone from, the mid-range can get involved and make a charge.
Patton Kizzire does have an out. I did see there was an article about how everyone can do this, and Kizzire needs to win as well as have Bryson DFL. Rose needs to come 9th or worse, and then 3 needs to come 3rd. A bunch of other people need to come 3rd or worse. But yeah, if Kizzire wins, Bryson DFLs, and Rose finishes 9th or worse, he's live,
he's
man.
Live.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Yeah.
I mean, he's probably the favorite if all of those things happen. I think the rest of them would be sort of unlikely.
It's tough. I mean, obviously, so the way the FedEx Cup works, if you're in the top 5, you control your own destiny. So Bryson through JT, if they win, it's over. Then the guys on the outside, they're pretty close. Like if Keegan, say, won, it would basically come down to Bryson not being like 2nd.
That's the other gross thing about this is Keegan Bradley, who's had like a wildly unremarkable season, is somehow in 6th in this because you get like 8 times as many points for the BMW Championship as you do for like a real event like the API or something like that.
I mean, it's not to make this an overarching, but playoffs in general are not a good indicator of much. Like if you just make it right. We talked about this. Bryson could have won the first 3 playoff events, and he would be in the exact same position he is now.
Yeah.
And if he comes in 2nd and JT wins, he loses FedEx Cup. I mean, it makes no sense. A guy.
I mean, they're going to
the year.
they're good in basketball. I assume they're good in hockey. I don't really follow hockey, but I know they're fun to watch in hockey. Like the overtime stuff is cool, but the best team usually ends up doing. I don't know. It's weird because it's like people get really tilted when the best team wins in basketball all the time, which happens most of the time. Like the Cavs won a couple of years ago, blah blah blah. But does anyone think that the Nick Foles led Eagles are any better than the Patriots? No.
Yeah, but nobody
I know.
When you get a series, that's what you tend to get, unless it's like, baseball is just a joke in general, but it's fun. Look at how soccer does it, where, they have other things, but basically, you play everyone in your table or whatever, and that determines the team. That's the best way to do it. There's no doubt. It's not as fun though.
Right. There's no drama. It's like, okay, Man City won in, I don't know, November, and it's over in February.
Yeah, they wrap it like it's just. I'll put it like this: March Madness is one of my favorite things of the year. You're getting a borderline random team winning it. It means nothing. It's a 64 team tournament with single elimination. You could get any result, and it's ridiculous. It doesn't make it any less fun. But if you're trying to crown the best team, that's not how to do it.
No, when you've got 64 teams playing a total of 63 games to determine which is the best one, probably not. A little bit of variance involved there. Speaking of variance, we have a tournament where, who knows, man, a lot of good players and Patton Kizzire.
It's true. There is a drop-off, unlike many drop-offs that you will see in any tournament, where there's just a guy. And again, I keep saying this, no disrespect to him. It's more interesting that he was able to survive this long. Pretty cool, because he's not even remotely close to the 30th best golfer, and yet here he is. A lot of good players are not here.
Yeah. It is delicious that that he knocked out Spieth. I quite enjoy that. Or Spieth knocked himself out, whatever happened. But
now he has to pay a fine.
Yeah, the fraud is not here. I think he'll be all right fine-wise. He did win this thing last year for cool $10 million. Guy's done all right in his career. He's making some money. He's in a lot of ads. But yeah, let's break down the field, or let's break down the course. That's probably more important. You want to start with that? It's long.
It's long. It's hard to gauge how tough it is because it's only 30 guys. So, the scores to par on a par 7, it doesn't look as extreme. But it's East Lake. It's been here what seems like forever. So you can look to, plenty of guys have played this plenty of times. Pretty standard. When I looked at it, not too much stood out. I think you're going to want some length off the tee. But more importantly than that, someone like Molinari, he's the easiest example. Just being able to get it in the fairway is important. If you're gaining strokes off the tee, even if it's not particularly with distance, I think that's a pretty good bet for what you want. Short game, it is what it is. You scramble, maybe lean on those guys, but we're going to be talking about not only the plays we like, but more importantly, what do you do with a 30-man field? And it just lends itself to just trying to be creative, almost like a showdown mindset. Like, draw some narratives and kind of let it fly. Don't worry about the plays themselves.
Yeah, very much like a showdown narrative. And it's one of those things where you kind of have to try to be unique in order to, or at least, not like we've seen, like last night, the NFL showdown, the winners, there were 180 of them or over 100 of them. I forget exactly how many, but it was about $4,000 a piece for a $200K to first tournament, which whatever, that's a nice payday and you should totally be happy with that. But your equity from finding a way to be more unique. I had a couple outs. I had like it wasn't the second, so there was a Miller one ahead, but there was like the third and the fourth best lineup combos. Like I had those, which granted those were for $60 and $50 because there were hundreds of teams on the two lineups ahead of me, but had the Seahawks done like one more crazy thing instead of Will Dipset, that lineup had 20 people. So that would have been more in the, 20, 25K kind of thing. So you want to be as different as possible without being stupid, don't play Patton Kizzire. But this is a situation where I would be comfortable leaving money, like significant money on the table. And that's not something I would recommend ever, really. We talk about that often, that's not something good to do unless it's an extreme thing like this.
This is pretty much, even in WGCs where that comes up and it's 70 guys, and I think that's, you want to leave 300 or 400, whatever. This is a situation where you can leave, I would say, comfortable leaving over 1,000. You still don't want to get ridiculous where you leave like 8. There's no reason to do that. What you're going to accomplish, you'll accomplish with 1,200. Especially, I mean, like you said, it's different to a point. Just playing 6 golfers that almost have no chance combined to really get you, because you're going to need like 1, 2, 4, 5, 7. It's going to be close.
And they are, even though it looks crazy because you've got things like Paul Casey at 6,800 and Mark Leishman at 6,300, and these are it's relatively appropriately and efficiently priced. Like the guys that are expensive for a reason. You want those dudes. So it is one of those, like, to be unique, I would look more to try to pivot. And you're not going to get anyone low owned, but there will be guys that are 13, 15% owned instead of, and a lot of guys that are 35, 40. Like, I will probably just say, screw it with Tiger. If he's going to be, I imagine he's 30+% owned, and I'll just play some of the other guys and try to get weird that way rather than say, hey, I'm not going to play DJ or Rory or JT. Like, that's just kind of stupid, I think, because one of those guys is going to show up top 5. So,
yeah, I mean, I'll have to say, I obviously haven't built. JT, he might have a wrist thing. I'm not overly worried. He's my pick to win. I think he's going to win the FedEx Cup. He controls his own destiny, which would be impressive. He would go back to back. That's pretty wild.
This is totally his kind of course.
Yeah, he likes East Lake. I think it sets up well. He was second here last year. 6th in the year before that was when he's only played it. Has all the skills. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't play well here. And out of the, those top guys, that's where I think I'm most content doing it. It's weird to talk about him. We don't know, but Dustin Johnson, what's going on with his personal life, who knows how that affects A, his ownership, and B, his actual play. Like, he might have bigger things going on than trying to worry about the FedEx Cup.
Yeah, that's true. Do you know anything? I saw some stuff on Twitter that I didn't click on about how Paulina took him off of her Instagram account.
Well, there's something to, they're going through something. He tweeted about it saying, personal issue, like, stuff, and he's going through it. But
aren't they always going through something?
Yeah, of course. But I certainly can speak to, everyone can. Like, if you're dealing with real personal life issues, it's going to affect your work.
Yes.
Now, again, I have no clue, and if that becomes a narrative and it drives his ownership way down, I'll probably just say, if there's going to be a point where I'm going to probably buy. It's just like when we don't know about an injury in a sport. It's a delicate balance of, do I want to roll the dice in a suboptimal spot for a potential ownership boost? But yeah, I'm with you. I think you don't want to just start avoiding all the win equity up top. But there's ways to build. We got plenty of good players here, and you got guys like Jason Day who are priced in a ridiculous range.
Yeah, that's pretty silly. Does this not strike you? I mean, you mentioned JT being your favorite, which that was my initial lean too. I'm more interested in Rory than I have been in a while. This strikes me as such a Rory troll spot. Are you jamming, or are you just mildly excited? What do you think about Rory this week?
Not jamming, but I'm always on Rory, and yeah, he'd be my second favorite guy up top. It feels like it's been a while, and it's only been 1 week off. He just murdered tee to green at BMW. It was absurd. Everything was good. He could not putt, and that's what we've seen with Rory and many a time. So it looks like he's trending upward at the right time. He won the FedEx Cup in 2016
easily. Like, he killed everyone, and it was because he could putt, and that was here. I'm not. That is somewhat of a thing for me. He played like he always played, but then he was just drilling putts 2 years ago. That was dominating.
Yeah, it was. That was very impressive, and certainly a guy I'm going to look to. I think this is similar to JT, a course that sets up well for him. I know I mentioned the course. Did anything stick out to you when you were looking at East Lake?
Not really. I mean, just the length, really. And, you know, I think it's pretty tough. I think the reason someone like Day hasn't done great here, I think it is pretty troublesome to be spraying everywhere.
Yeah, the rough's not great.
Phil's had his troubles here. I don't know. Does that scare you off of like Woodland or something like that at all? I feel like that price tag is pretty exciting as a big time scorer like that, but
yeah, I mean it worries me, but at the same time, I think I kind of like him down there. So it's similar to, I mean, I don't know what to make of Bubba. Bubba is, and maybe this isn't a surprise to other people, he's close enough where he could win. I thought he was well out of it.
No, Bubba's a sick play this week. And he has not had a good year, but he's got the 2 wins. It's like the Kazire thing. Like, how is Kazire still around? All these guys that have just been kind of fine. It's funny because when you brought up Molly earlier, talking about this being a place where he could be fine, I was shocked to see that he had never played here before. I guess other people would think that's less shocking. But he's been one of the 30 best golfers for a few years now. But he never gets – he's like not a FedEx pointsy kind of guy because he's more like in the Paul Casey kind of range where he's just he plays well, but he's not going to win anything because he doesn't putt well. And then this year he putted well for a month and won like everything. So
and he also, you know, he made an effort to play like he was at a double disadvantage. He would go to Europe for the big events and miss out on some potential easier point weeks. And this year he wanted to make it to Eastlake. He won, which that took care of that. And I mean, then he had another monster win, obviously grabbing a major, but absolutely. We did have, hello chat. We did Patrick Reed thoughts. That's a guy that Patrick Reed seems like the kind of guy who would, you know, not take any week off. He's always grinding. Don't know how well he fits for the course. But I have some interest. I always like Reed. You know, he's gearing up for the Ryder Cup, which is coming up. Do you have any thoughts there? I mean, he was a name in that mid-range that I thought was fine. I mean, he's sub-7, hasn't had any success at Eastlake, but I don't worry about that too much.
No, but he is a little Day-ish where he can get into some spraying trouble. Like Patrick Reed's not a very good driver of the ball, so that does worry me some. I mean, I don't think this isn't like a birdie fest or anything. This is a tough course. It looks easier than it plays under par, but that's partially just because these guys are awesome. But I don't know. Like, yeah, at first glance, Reed seemed like a really exciting kind of play, but we'll see. If he's super low owned, I mean, by super low owned, I mean 10-ish%, then I will probably be investing fairly heavily. But
I've been buying him recently. It's not that it's been killing me. He just hasn't had the really good rounds, good showings that I've thought. He's an interesting spot because you got Xander, who won this event. And then you've got Billy Ho, who is another like popular name that I think is going to be wildly owned. And he's towards the bottom in terms of the best players here, which is interesting.
Yeah. I mean, is Billy Ho the 29th best player here? Probably, right? It's him or, I mean, like Stanley's better than Kevin Na. Wise, you could make an argument.
I mean, he's towards the bottom. I would give him a nod above a couple other guys. Yeah, Phil, honestly. But he's certainly, Cam Smith is towards the bottom. He's another one, though. Like, Cam Smith could win the whole thing.
Yeah, this is, okay, so let's just talk about how dumb the FedEx, however this works is anyway. Like, okay, the top 5 or whatever, Bryson won 2 of these, so sure. Rose, Finau, even Finau at 3rd seems a little weird too. DJ and JT obviously have had great years. Keegan at 6 is hilarious. Brooks at 7, yeah, dude won 2 majors. You would think the dude that won 2 majors might be higher than 7th even, but and then 8, 9, 10 is Bubba, Billy Ho, and Cam Smith. I mean, Bubba had some wins. That's cool, but like he's had a pretty crappy year other than the Travelers and that match play thing.
And that's just the way it's structured. Is the wins are so huge, and you can make a late run. We saw Billy Ho, and this is part of the reason why I think he's going to get a big bump in ownership. We saw him do this already. Like he won the FedEx Cup with a massive heater right at the end of a year that was uneventful. kind of feels that way. If he's popular, forget it. No chance.
He's just such a blah player. I mean, he hasn't even made it in the last. He hasn't made it in 4 years. So he has not made it back to Eastlake since he won the thing 4 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, and just taking a snapshot of Eastlake, we've seen all different types of dudes, succeed here, from the Bill Haas's to the Rory. So it's
not a lot of sprayers.
Well, spraying, that's fair, but at the same time, like, if you're, I don't want to say if you're a sprayer and you don't spray, that's a given, but I still think that it's not necessarily someone who bombs. It's not necessarily a plotter. It's not a short game. It can be done in different ways.
Ball strikers.
Ball striker, I guess that's fair. Even though Bill Haas, poor guy.
He was a good ball striker back in his day.
Back in the
60s.
So these are the top
player.
Our friend Will was asking, are these the 30 best golfers? No, it's the top 30 in the FedEx Cup point standings, which are accumulated throughout the year. So, in pure talent form, no, it's not. But these are the best 30 on the tour when you rate the points of how that's been adjusted.
Wins count for a ton, and specifically, so the last 3 events have been FedEx Cup playoff events, and those
ton of points.
The first FedEx Cup event, I think, counts. The win on that counts twice as much as like the Masters,
probably.
And then I think it's twice as much, and then 4 times as much, and then 8 times as much for BMW, right? That's why freaking Keegan is in 6th place.
Yeah,
in this
you can make massive moves.
Yes. Bryson Bryson's had a good year. It's been very up and down. It's a lot of, you'll notice a lot of very high rover players are the guys that are doing well here, because a win is just worth so many points. Same thing with like the official world golf rankings. Like, that's why a lot of those random Euro dudes show up really high. Like when Hao Tong Lee or the Asian dudes, like if Hao Tong Lee or something, because he rips off 4 wins at the, last year or the year before, like Alex Noren was like 11th at one point in the official world golf rankings because he just won a million crappy Euro Tour events. And it was like he was not that good. He's still not that good, but
yeah, I know what you're saying. Yes, yeah. Wins in all 4. And you can take it even further. There are guys on the Japanese tour who are getting WGCs because they're in, they're like Yuta Akita comes to mind.
Yeah, it just gets dusted in the
But that is what it is. So how are you? I really do think, as much as it's fun to mention all 30 guys and then tout that we got the winner on the show, we should probably just talk about.
What do you mean, man?
Yeah, just straight fire here. How do you go about? Because this is just a different animal than anything you're going to see in a normal golf week. You obviously, it's no cut, but it's only 30 guys. So do you change this from a WGC mindset?
Yeah. I play it even, I like WGCs, and I'll play those pretty heavily because I think you can, if you pick some of the right guys, you can do well at that. This is like, it's kind of whatever. It's more important to try to be weird than anything else. I often say in golf, and by the way, I do not believe this in like the NFL necessarily. It's certainly not true in the NBA, but as far as DFS games go, but in golf specifically, leverage is far more important than projection, because like if some guy, it's golf, it doesn't make much sense. So like if some guy is 30% owned and some guy is 10% owned, the 10% owned guy is the better play all of the time. The 30% owned guy is most likely going to beat the 10% owned guy like significantly more than half of the time. That's why the guy's 30% owned. But as far as expected value goes, right, you can lose a bet more than half of the. We were kind of talking about this yesterday, but I think this is a very tough concept for people to get in DFS in general. But you can lose a bet more than half of the time, and that still be the right bet you make, because it pays off more than double when you do get it right.
Just think of it like the lotto. No one wins the lotto more than once. You lose if you play the lotto for your whole life, you're going to lose it 90. And if you happen to win it once, think of what would happen. So same concept, just to a much lesser extent.
Can apply. But imagine if there was a way in the lotto where you could pick certain combos that would pay off at a higher rate or something like that, even if they had the same probability of hitting.
Yes. No, I'm just saying it in the aspect of, bets don't have to be measured by win percentage. It's just if your payoff exceeds.
Unless you're offering a sports betting package at, some other tout site.
But yeah, that is an important concept. Tomorrow, that's one of the possible topics maybe we'll expand on that tomorrow, because Wednesday is our quote unquote kind of open day to talk more general DFS stuff. But those principles apply to this 30-man specifically. It's the end of the year. It's very hard to gauge. Not that we know mindset, but you got guys all over the place. Some are going to the Ryder Cup. Some want to just get their year over with, I would bet. You have some guys who can win this, some guys who can't.
Jordan Spieth cannot win this.
Jordan Spieth could have trouble. He'll be watching at home. So,
do you think he will be? Of course he will be, because he's competitive like a freak like that. But I can imagine him pretending he wasn't or something like that. You know what I mean?
I would assume he's in France. If I was him, I would be in France, like getting ready. But maybe
not. The Ryder Cup's in France. I was like, what are you?
Yeah. No, the Ryder Cup's in France.
France is awesome. That's a good idea.
It's insane. And we're going to jump right back to this, but just the U.S. hasn't won the Ryder Cup on European soil in 25 years. That's a lot longer than I thought it was.
How often do they have the Ryder Cup? Is that every other year?
Yeah, so 2 years, but it rotates. So you get
every 4 years. It's in Europe.
Exactly. It's been a while though.
Yeah, that's a bit. Okay. Well, we do have, so like I would look at, there's the obvious. This is the big trade-off, right? Like there's the obvious pricing things, right? Like Rahm, Day, Fleetwood, Casey, JT, I think, is a little underpriced. Ricky is underpriced. Like those are, Cantlay is underpriced. Those are the guys that like really stand out. But for the most part, a lot of those guys are going to be really popular because of those prices. So it's a bit of a trade-off. Like Rory is overpriced, but he's probably going to come in at the lowest ownership because of that, of the expensive dudes. And it's Rory. Like he can just, he can trade on and off with Sabatini about who's good Rory and who's bad Rory at any given moment. So I think he makes a pretty compelling case if, Rose and DJ and JT and, Brooks, for that matter, who stand out as like better values at the higher price range. If those guys end up really popular and he doesn't, like I think Rory's the best play. If the JT wrist injury and the DJ life injury really start to change that a little bit, we'll know more. We'll monitor that. But if they really start to change stuff, then I think that you can just kind of go more sort of pure value at the top. But there's a million really good dudes in the 8s and stuff like that. Would it surprise you to have Bryson keep this run going? Like but
there's like 70% of this field, if they won, I would be, from levels of not surprised at all to somewhat. There's only like a handful of guys where I'd just be like, wow, that is shocking. And to put it in context, Xander would have been one of those for me last year. So it can be done. Right. It's not. Patton Kizzire is a separate issue. Other than that, though, like you're talking about very good players who have competed in fields, strong fields at multiple times in their lives.
Xander, I finished projections early today because there were only 30 guys and it did not take much time. And I put them into Cruncher. Xander is showing up in optimals, which has literally never happened before, ever. Like
is it because he won?
What?
Last year? Is it because he won this last year? Is that the reason for that?
No. He's just like he's got form and the price is low enough, and he's like he's got enough data that it's like, oh yeah, Xander's a pretty good player. It's not that he's been a pretty decent player for a while, but he's kind of been in that Bryson zone where it was like he's pretty good, but he's $1,000 too expensive, and now he's just kind of like at the right sort of price point. I mean, I'd still rather play Cantlay or Rahm or Casey. I mean, I don't know. I don't even know if I'd rather play Casey. Casey's playing the worst golf we've seen him play ever, really, since in the last 3 years, the last 6 weeks or 2 months of what he's done is about as bad as we've seen him play. And at a place like this where it's more about you want dudes that are going to go crazy, I'd be a little scared.
Xander's going to be wildly popular. That's what kills me. I think that he's going to be, at that price with the course history, Xander, just it lines up to be massive ownership there.
But haven't you found that people are usually fading people off of a win this year? I think I think your whole thing, which used to be very true, I've noticed
he won this event.
But it's been shocking how little people, or how much that doesn't apply anymore. So the previous year winner and the previous week winner, I do not feel like people are going towards anymore.
I think there's something to that with the previous week winner because it used to be non-existent ownership. Previous year, yeah, but I think with this it's a little different too because you got 30 dudes. Xander makes sense as a play. He's underpriced. Usually part of that I think is because the sites price people. You get such a bump for winning at a course. It's ridiculous. You see a guy wildly out of the range and you're like, well, that's because he won last year. He's had 3 top 10s in the last couple of years. We'll see. It's only Tuesday, but I feel
that's
like
part of it. But
I think he might be the highest owned guy on the whole slate, him or Finau.
No, there's no way. There's no way Xander becomes the highest owned guy. I would bet a lot of money that he's not. If you give me the field,
you're probably right. That's not my forte, but we'll see. I do expect massive ownership there.
I don't know. You don't think Casey and Reed and Phil and Bubba, there's all these huge names priced just underneath them?
No, I think, and maybe I'm again not even generalizing or wrong, that a lot of people don't look at Xander like we do. They don't see those guys as huge names. They just see a better player in Xander. Short term, long term and short term, we can talk about that all we want, but I don't see it like that. I think that Xander's a guy that people like to play. He has the course history. He has the set of skills objectively.
But he doesn't have. He's only played here once. That's not course history.
For a lot of people, though, it is. We have to delineate what we're talking about. At high stakes, yeah, probably not. For the general public, it is. And I think he will get a bump in a lot of areas because of that.
I don't even know how much the general public is playing this. The tournaments are significantly sized down. It's mostly going to be regs that are in these tournaments this weekend. But
still, even there is no quote unquote. There's not many people. Everyone looks at something. I'm just saying there's a difference between look at any week. Look at the ownership in something massive and something. There's certain guys that get jumped on at higher stakes and certain guys that get jumped on in lower stakes. I think
there were a number of monster course history guys this year that came in at significantly lower ownership than I think we initially thought that they would.
Not
Decky at the Waste Management, Charlie Hoffman at the Valero, those guys were, and they were. You're right. They were obviously priced up. Xander looks to be priced up to me, and this is not his course history that's saying he's a fine play.
See, that's where I think the difference is. I don't think people I think people think he's priced down.
But I don't.
No, I know you don't.
No, I'm saying I don't think people will. Who knows? Whatever. We're obviously splitting hairs, and this is kind of we're having a debate for debate's sake because there's not a ton to talk about this week. But
no, to really talk about, honestly.
I do too. I just if I'm still playing DFS golf and not just allocating all my money towards the NFL, okay, I know who Patrick Reed is. I know who I know that Patrick Reed, Paul Casey, Bubba, Phil, Mark Leishman, I know that these guys are the big deal dudes, and I'd rather play them than, and I know that the reason Xander shows up is because usually those guys that I just listed are all 8,200 and Xander's, 75, 78 or whatever. I don't doubt that he'll pick up some steam. I wouldn't be surprised to see him in the 20s, but highest owned guy on the slate would be shocking to me. I don't even think he's the highest owned guy in this range. I think Paul Casey and Patrick Reed would be above him. But
you think they'll be higher owned than Xander?
I would think so. I would hope so. If there's any fucking sanity in this world,
I don't think so. I'll give you. We'll talk about fun pro. I'll give you both of them for Xander.
You just were offering me the field, and now Laffy did this to me on our first two fellas show. He goes, I think the Browns are going to go 500 this year, and I was like, I'll take the under on, and then he's like,
shooting me. No respect.
He said something about, oh yeah, they're going to win. Said 500, then he went to like 6 or 7, and I was like, I'll take the under on 6.5. This was before the first game. It's like, I'll take the under on 6.5 wins, and he's like, I'll give you 5.5. I'm like, dude, you just said 500. They were going to go 500. Now you're doing this. You guys are crazy.
We'll see, but I'm just saying, last thing, and we'll move on from Xander, is I don't think that most people see Paul Casey. If you ask people, if we put a poll up on Twitter, who's the better golfer, Xander or Paul Casey?
People would say Paul Casey. Paul Casey is clearly like the 7th or 8th or 9th best golfer in the world. I don't think that's lost on people. They're not that dumb, man. No one thinks Xander is like legitimately one of the 10, 12 best dudes in the world. They're excited to play him. They get into it. It's like Norman Zhang thing. It's the FOMO. And I get that, but like no one thinks that Xander is actually a better player than Paul Casey. Right, chat? Back me up on this.
No, I totally disagree. I don't think that. I want to be clear. I don't think that at all.
No, I know, because you're not a crazy person.
No way. There's no one, not no one. People do not think that Paul Casey is a top 10 golfer, and people think that Xander and him would be very close in a Twitter poll.
I want to see Paul Casey as a top 10 golfer Twitter poll. If it wasn't for the last couple weeks, man, like that's an easy. I think you get 80% yes.
Oh my God.
People finally saw how good he was this year. He finally got his win. It's like the dude just comes in 6th place at every tournament. You know how hard that is to do?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't. I've never golfed before.
Me neither. That's a fair point. I don't, but conceptually, I feel like I do. Trying to bring it back to this tournament, I think this is the kind of stuff that you kind of do have to weigh. It's late in the year. I'm not sticking to a normal process of even trying to break down these guys. I just think it's so much golf has been put on. You kind of just have to stick to some narratives and say, where are they? Are they going? I am going to look. I think if guys have stuff to play for, that's good. Mix and match some higher upside dudes, some bombers with some bombers, and be unique. My number one priority this week is, can I get a reasonable team with the lowest amount of dupes? Because if that happens, I don't see that much edge in breaking down the course and the players. I think the edge comes from that aspect of it.
Yeah, they're all pretty good except for Kazire. And Keegan. I wouldn't touch Keegan personally.
I mean, he's going to be really popular too.
That's good. I hope he is, because that guy sucks.
I mean, he cost me a lot of money, still pouting about that. But yeah, I do think that he will be one of the popular. A lot of people probably going to look and see him as one of the guys who can win this and say, I'm going to go there. But what are you going to do with Bryson? That's one that I really don't know. It's tricky.
No, Bryson is in the where Xander was forever, where it's like, all right, this guy's too expensive for what I have for a projection on him. Because if I look, I'm looking at a bigger sample, and it's different. Like the way my stuff works is I kind of look at I've got this tournament is worth twice as much as the one before, is worth twice as much as the one before, and so on and so forth. So really good recent form will boost the guy quite a bit. But it's not exactly like that, but it's a similar formula.
I know.
It's a decay model, but so really good recent form will make a guy show up. But like the Bryson and Xanders of the world, the young hot ticket kids, because people are really into them too, they get bumped up $1,000 more than they even should be. And so what I can get out of them from the data I'm sort of massaging. So I end up looking at other plays around there that are better prices, that seem like better values in a vacuum. So I don't really know what to do with Bryson. But honestly, if he's going to be super popular and he's 30% owned, which 30% owned is not that high even this week, there's going to be a lot of dudes well over that. But if he's in the 30s, probably not going to play much of him, which is kind of scary. But
it's tricky. And he's a guy, I do things obviously a lot differently, but I don't know where he really fits in my hierarchy either. There's a lot of people I think that are very sharp that think that Bryson is one of the best golfers in the world. And he's certainly playing like it long term. We'll see. But, you can look at things two ways. You look at him at this price and you say he's $400 more than Jason Day. Well, I'm not sure how I justify that. And you can look at it the other way and say that right now he's one of a handful of the best golfers in the world with all the motivation in the world to play good here. Why wouldn't he have a good showing? There's nothing against that.
Right. And this does go back a little bit to the concept of variance and like the idea that you want to quantify variance, like use variance to your advantage. I would not argue that when Bryson is on, like good Bryson is one of the best golfers in the world right now. We've seen that. But there's a very high chance that you get bad Bryson. Brad Bryson has shown up all the time. It's like Bryson is a wide receiver and Paul Casey is a running back kind of thing. Like you've got a much wider range of outcomes with Bryson than you do with someone a little steadier, like Casey or like Webb Simpson or something like that. Although,
but there are questions.
No, in a tournament, like the Webb ended up being a bad example because he was winning after 2 days and then shot like in the 80s 2 days in a row. But that is not typically what happens with Webb. Mm-hmm. I just think that the downside of Bryson, like it was not, 2 months ago that he shot like 6 over in 3 holes to go from first to 15th in some trash Euro Tour event. He has that in his game. That variance is there. That like I'm going from really good to really bad in a goddamn hurry. So I think the downside is I think Bryson has a real shot to finish DFL. So Kezire's not dead.
That is a hot take. Not even DFL. Just
it's not. No, that's not a hot. That's like I'm just saying like he has a higher chance of coming DFL than a lot of other people in his.
I get conceptually what you're saying, but this is where we differ.
I'm not saying he's going to. I think he has like a 6% chance of DFLing or something like that, but that's higher than a lot of other people in the field.
I totally get that, and this is where we differ on a lot of stuff. You don't, correct me if I'm wrong, you don't weigh in the fact that he's first in the FedEx Cup to that statement. Do you?
Why would I? No, I don't. But what does that have to do with?
Like the circumstances surrounding this specific tournament in a vacuum, I get what you're saying. I'm saying Bryson coming in with what he needs to do here would make him on the shortest list of finishing in the bottom half. Like I would be stunned if he's 25th through 30th, given that it's going to be important for him to move up potentially, even if he's out of it, to win the FedEx Cup.
Oh, you mean like you just mean motivation and he'll be more concentrated or something like that? I guess so. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. That's where a lot of that stuff is quote unquote unquantifiable, but like Bryson is in a different spot than a lot of other golfers this week.
Yeah. To be clear, I would be shocked if he came 25th to 30th too.
That's not the point. Yeah. I got
just
you
saying,
there.
like he has a higher chance of doing that than a lot of other guys in this field, I think.
Okay. We did have Brooks was a guy that I was wondering about with you. I think he has a chance to be lower owned from the top. Everyone when we say lower owned again, you're not going to find 6% Brooks, of course. I rarely play him. I have some interest, though. I think if you started with like him and Ricky, you could be a little different. And that's a build that I'm certainly going to explore this week.
Yeah, I don't hate that. Do you think Ricky will be not that popular?
No, I don't think he'll be popular.
Because he stands out as like screaming value to me.
No, with so many other guys, he's got Tiger and Finau is going to be massively owned. Bryson's going to be pop. There's a lot of dudes. And of course, you're not, it's not one or the other. You can pair all these guys. But I think Ricky and Brooks are towards the bottom of the ownership up there. Like,
okay.
Ricky just hasn't done, he was hurt. He was very blah last week. I don't think I don't know why many people would be drawn to him. And even Brooks, he kind of's been quiet. We haven't seen much where there's so many other guys either on fire who people are used to playing or just paying up for like Justin Thomas, I would expect to be pretty damn popular. It's not a hot take that I think he's going to win. A lot of people are saying that.
Yeah. Okay, so this is the real issue with this tournament is that we've spent all this time talking about ownership because it's like kind of the most important ownership tournament we've seen in forever. It's also the least reliable ownership projection tournament. You know what I mean? Because it's going to change all over the place. Everyone knows that you have to do something weird. Like the projected ownerships are going to go up and down. Like I really like, Drew B at Daily Roto and the guy at Roto Grinders projected ownership things. And we have cool ones here at Awesemo too. They're going to be wildly different from one another this week. And that usually isn't the case. Usually they get a pretty good idea of what's going on. But with a smaller tournament like this, when everyone's hot take changes all the time, when everyone's looking for the littlest edge and, I wouldn't be if like this DJ Paulina's stuff just picks up steam and he starts getting, it's like you could see him at 8% in high stakes. It's like, then you might as well just play DJ. He's the best player. It's tricky. I mean, this is why this week for me, I'm getting leverage with the dollar amounts. Like you can get leverage different ways, but you can leave some money on the table and be unique in that sense. The ownership is certainly, it's going to make a difference. You don't want 40% guys, of course, but you certainly don't want 40% guys that add to roughly 50K. That is the double death sentence this week. Yes.
I'm just saying the pairings are as important as who you have. If you have weird guys connected, that can make a little difference, not just being, you want to find the low owned plays. It is going to be tough though. You're going to have a bunch of guys that are going to be anywhere from like 15 to 30%. And I certainly don't know where they fall.
Yeah. And some of them are going to like come out as initial projections of 10% and end up at 32. Like it's going to be wacky stuff. So this is a week. I don't mind even playing a, $48,000 lineup this week. I don't really want to, but like you're not drawing dead automatically for doing that because a lot of these guys, like if Mark Leishman was 8,200, like would you be shocked? Not necessarily.
Yeah, it's the same advice that we've been saying for like if you've had a great golf year, if you want to have some fun, if you want to try out golf and have a different format, throw some money at it. A lot of times I say that I'm playing reduced volume. This isn't even reduced volume. This is just I'm taking a handful of lineups, making them and having some fun. Like
don't play cash. Don't
cash. It's just not a week of anything for me. It's have some fun. It's been a cool, awesome golf year. Excited for it to get going again. And I'm glad so last year, the way they did the fantasy world golf final it was survivor style. And you had to whittle down kind of like the FedEx Cup. And then you had to play this tournament for the grand prize. Mm-hmm. It was awful. Like I survived and then I had Ricky and he was basically dead for last and I did terrible. But like attacking a 30-man field it's just a terrible DFS week. And I'm glad they didn't do that this year. Stupid.
Are there any questions in the chat? My chat is still not working. I will figure this out for sure for tomorrow, but
I had been kind of trying to loop them in during the show. So we did have some questions about different golfers and we did just get a question about tennis. I can't play tennis in New York, so I don't play DFS tennis. I like to gamble on tennis. It's fun. It can be real expensive when you don't know what you're doing. I certainly don't know what I'm doing, but man, not to rehash all this, fascinating. Your view on Paul Casey, and I tend to agree with you. I just think we're in such a minority that you may not say.
I don't know. I don't have a ton of respect for the people's opinions a lot of the time, but I have enough respect for people to know that to correctly peg Paul Casey as one of the 10 best golfers in the world. That seems crazy that people would not like people that just know enough to play DFS.
What would you think about if you threw up Bryson versus Paul Casey?
Oh, I don't know. I think in DFS circles, you'd almost be more likely to have people be like Bryson because they're trying to, it's like the touting thing,
I think it'd be like 90-10.
It would Bryson. Not be 90-10, but it would be. I'd take over 60, Bryson.
Yeah, I mean he would. It's but I think.
But that's also I think more specifically DFS people. It's like if you took the general public person of Phil versus Bryson, they'd probably say Phil still. But I don't know. It's weird. You know what I mean, though? Like, Bryson is the shiny object. Like, it's exciting. It's cool. Like, that's great. He solved golf or whatever. Like,
and that's what you talked about. I will give you that. You talked about that early in the show, and that's where golfers, we've seen this. It's not like other sports where it's more sustained. Like, the best basketball players are the best basketball players, and that's pretty much it. Golf, it's very hard. You see guys get on runs, and then they completely fall off, and vice versa. Yeah. We did have just a couple last questions in chat. Your boy, Aaron Wise. I'll go first real quick. Talent-wise, I think he's towards the bottom of this field. So I don't love it, but if he looks, unlike Patton Kizzire, where I don't care what his ownership is, if he's going to be wildly low-owned, I don't mind taking stabs there.
Yeah. I think it's weird, like, realized potential, I think he's on the lower end of this field. I think he's got a lot of talent. I think he's one of my picks to be like a Bryson type. I think could be the next Bryson or Xander, like hotshot kid. But he's not there yet. So yeah, as of right now, he's not at that level. But at 6,100, and if for some reason he is 5, 6, 7% owned, then hell yeah, I'm down.
Yeah. We see. Good person in chat, did good with college football. We're going to be talking college football on Friday. So, yeah. No, I mean, again, this is one it's very hard, at least for me, to break down for people because almost no matter who you asked me, I would say, yeah, I can see the merit for playing them because I can. You have all the best golfers in the world here, and some of them are in price ranges that you'll never see. So it's in a non-cut 30, man. Yeah. I'd focus more on just building a good blend of lineups than the plays themselves.
Agreed. And that's like you were just saying before about how, the best golfers in the world isn't really as much of a static thing. And like, it just sort of changes all the time. And it's just any of these guys can do whatever at any given moment. Like for those, there's a lot of new people, a lot of Osmo people that, if you don't know it, like, this is the end of the year, so like I guess congratulations, man. Like both of us cleared well over 6 figures in profit on this golf season. Like it was monstrously successful, and a lot of that was like I don't think either of us were married to a play ever. Like it was never like, hey man, maybe you with Rory and me. I can be a little stubborn with DJ, I guess, but we have our pet favorites. But I don't think either of us are ever really like I have to play this guy, and I'm gonna do that for 6 months in a row. It doesn't make a lot of sense to do that in golf. It changes in a hurry.
Yeah, it certainly does, and it was a very, very cool year. You got to adapt. I mean, the perfect guy, and he obviously means a ton to me because he was on my big team early in the year. But Patrick Reed, I remember early in our Slack chat, which is one of the many reasons you should stop on, and it's a great time. I was writing him up in articles and getting, I don't want to say right or wrong, but I was getting blasted because he couldn't even make a cut. And it was horrendous. And not long after he won the Masters. And now the narrative around him is ridiculous. It was, oh my God, this guy, how are we playing? This guy sucks. He's garbage. He's going to be off the tour. And then he won a major. And
yeah,
there's a million guys like that. It happens all the time. And you're going to see it. There's no one out. There's too many good players to not have slumps.
I was getting blasted for Brooks pre-US Open, and then
that guy sucks, though.
Yeah, you're an asshole. He's better than Rory.
Yeah, better than everyone. I don't think people understand how winning 2 of 4 in this day and age is just ungodly.
Yeah,
like
the last guy to do that was Spieth, right? And everyone thought Spieth was the best player in the world for like 2 years after that when he didn't do anything.
Majors. It's weird, wild stuff. But all right, well.
No one believes, though. People still don't believe Molly, which is fine. I don't think he should not be believed. Like, he's a guy that shouldn't be believed as he is one of those guys. Like, he's one of the 15 best players in the world, and he has been. It's just like he's never been a guy that almost, I guess where it is with someone like Molly and someone like Casey, these really low rover guys, you never look at them, I think, and why people don't find them as sexy and don't want to call them what they are as far as like their sort of accurate ranking or whatever, is because you don't see the potential, because it's probably not there. You don't see that like number one overall potential, right? You don't see them ever being like the best guy in the world because they're not going to be.
Well, I think that comes down to an overarching conversation of like, what do you consider more impressive? Like a team or a player who, say a team, like they can make the playoffs 8 out of 10 years and they never get to the finals, or a team that just wins one championship.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if there's a right answer to that, but that's what you're like. There are some people that would say that winning a tournament is all that really matters. Like if Paul Casey can come 5th every week, that means nothing. I would disagree with that.
Like who was the better NFC East team of the 2000s, the Eagles or the Giants? Like the Eagles were better every single year, and the Giants won 2 Super Bowls. Yeah. It's like, what do you think?
That's where I think a lot of people with Paul Casey see it, where it's like, well, if you don't win, like if he led the tour in, average finish place or something like that, I don't even know if that's a stat, but he would be a guy up there. Like he's consistently good.
Yeah.
What does that mean though? Like, is it better to just win 4 times and miss cuts? I don't know.
Do you prefer variance in your golfer? And yes, as a DFS player, you should.
But I just mean in overall ranking, I don't know how you incorporate. I think everyone has to define something differently.
Overall ranking is the average score, right? It's like their average round score. Like Paul Casey has a better one than Patrick Reed.
I don't think people. I don't think it directly works like that, to be honest.
I will fight people on that.
I'm just saying, because like, what if you win a tournament by like 30 strokes? I mean, I'm thinking
your round score will go way down for that.
But I think certain people don't view it like that, where it's like, well, you got to adjust to given tournaments and whatnot. I know what you're saying.
All of that stuff is taken into account in like the long-term sort of adjusted. That's what like the projection is every week for the most part. I fit it a little bit, but
take it to Twitter and then just get infuriated and then DM me about this later.
No, I want to have this discussion with you. I don't want to have it. I don't want to have it on Twitter. It's so scary out there. Everyone's so, oh God.
Faceless eggs.
Well, the problem is, I don't know, man. People just don't have a very good understanding of like the basic ideas that I find that have made me a better DFS player. And this is where you and I have had this conversation before, where you and I differ. Like, I use computers a lot to do statistics, but you understand the basic stuff, and you talk all the time about how you're like not a statistics guy, but you understand the basic concept of the science of statistics, like the idea of, you get the ideas of variance and expected value. And like 98% of people it just doesn't make any sense to them. So it's really hard to have arguments with people when you're, because it's like, okay, there's a really high variance player I don't really like this week or weekend or whatever. Shit, Pat Mahomes last weekend, I was down on him. I was getting roasted for that. It's like, look what happens, man. He scored 6 touchdowns. Like, okay, I know that's in the range of outcomes. If Bryson might win by 30 strokes this weekend, that's totally in the range of outcomes. So is him DFLing. Like, he is one of the guys that has a higher probability of doing either of those. He just has a wider range of outcomes. And I like arguing about this with you, but maybe not as much with the general public.
Whew. Hey, I do hope people enjoyed this show. We did the best we could with 30 golfers, and I know we were kind of joking around about it. If you want to get better at DFS, you should come and sign up for us and talk to us. But you should listen to the show when we talk about that kind of stuff, because expected value, I say this all the time, privately and on shows, there are prerequisites to being good at DFS. Before you attack any slate, you should learn little things like that about leverage, about expected value, about variance, just about what you're trying to do. It's just a puzzle. Every slate is just a different puzzle. And if you don't know how to build a puzzle, it doesn't matter what pieces you have. You're just going to be at a huge disadvantage.
It's true. It's so much more important than the plays almost all the time.
So much more important. I get so many people that DM me, and of course I do not mind, like, do you like this guy or this guy? And that's fine in a vacuum. But the overarching themes, it's just like, well, if you have leaks in your construction, it doesn't really matter if you get the plays right. Maybe here and there you can do good, but on the long term, you're going to be in massive trouble.
That is absolutely true, my man. That is absolutely true. All right, I think that'll just about do it. That was a fun talk. It was fun to get heated. We haven't gotten heated at each other in our new home, I don't think, yet. So
we'll keep it lively.
Nice to get there. All right, well, that's a wrap up for the 2017-18 golf season. We will talk. I mean, we'll see you every day for the next 2 weeks anyway, but we'll have golf back for the swing season in a couple of weeks. We do have some projections here behind the paywall. We got ownership projections coming out, and hopefully we have. We're still talking about. Hopefully we have our return to form. We'll give you updates on our potential golf booth for the upcoming season. But everyone have a good time watching this weekend. Josh, it sounds like, is all safe. Should be back soon. But Dan was producing for us again today, so thanks, buddy. Appreciate that. And thanks, everyone out there, for listening, and we will talk to you all tomorrow.